baby.
GDK.
So, Cassie, Diddy's ex, just spilled some serious tea about why Diddy and Keefe D, yeah, that Keefe D, had AR-15 stashed in Diddy's mansion. And it's all tied to some deep gang connections Diddy's allegedly got. We're talking about some serious street ties that go way beyond the music biz. I know you're thinking, wait, what? But trust me, it's about to get crazy. First, we need to rewind the tape back to the infamous Diddy Mansion raid. That's where this story really begins.
The Department of Homeland Security conducting a raid at a house in Holmby Hills, believed to be connected to Sean Combs, the rapper and music executive, perhaps being linked to a trafficking investigation. Let's go live to Stu Mundell up in Skyfox right now for more. Stu, what do we know?
Okay. So let's break down this whole raid situation and how it fits into Diddy's ongoing drama. It's pretty wild, but here's the gist of what went down during the raid on his mansions in Los Angeles and Miami on March 25th, 2024. The feds weren't playing around. This was a huge operation. So imagine this. Homeland Security agents stormed both of Diddy's properties, blazing. They had the whole thing planned out. They basically showed up with dozens of heavily armed agents, shouting at everyone to get their hands up. And get this, Diddy's adult sons were actually caught in the crossfire, having lasers pointed at them while they came out of the house. But Diddy himself, he wasn't even at the Miami mansion where the raid went down. Though he was in Florida, the whole thing definitely had everyone on edge. Now, let's talk about what the feds actually found when they raided the place. So they discovered 3 AR-15 rifles. But here's the kicker. The serial numbers on those rifles were defaced. Not a good look at all. And if that wasn't enough, they also found drugs, baby oil, lubricant, and a bunch of other weapons and ammo. Yeah, it's giving real sketchy vibes. To top it off, they went through his electronic devices and even busted open some safes. This wasn't just a random sweep. They were clearly looking for something big. Now here's where it starts to get serious. The raid wasn't some random search. It's tied to a federal trafficking investigation. Allegations of SA, racketeering, and even the distribution of illegal narcotics and firearms are all floating around this thing. It looks like the feds have been talking to multiple Jane Does and even a John Doe about these trafficking and claims. So, this isn't just about Diddy being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Authorities have been building a case for a while now, and this raid was the next big step. But what does this all mean? Well, the feds didn't just show up with a warrant for no reason. The whole operation points to the fact that they've been gathering some serious evidence. This isn't just some random raid. The weapons, the drugs, and the materials that were seized, they were all linked to those freak-offs that Diddy hosted. These parties have been described as highly organized, with performances being part of the whole show, not your average Hollywood party. Don't get it twisted. This whole raid is a major escalation in Diddy's legal troubles. And it's clear the authorities have enough on him to launch something this intense. They didn't just find a few things. They found a whole mess of stuff that paints a much darker picture than we've been led to believe. Weapons and trafficking materials. It's like everything is coming to light at once. And the raid wasn't just a one-off event. It's tied to some serious investigations. And the evidence that was found could bring Diddy's whole empire crashing down if it leads to more charges. What does it mean for his involvement with Keefe D, gang ties, and his empire? Well, we'll dive into that next. Now let's connect the dots and talk about Keefe D. You know, the guy who's been tied up in one of the biggest mysteries in hip-hop history, Tupac's. And guess what? The more you dig into Keefe D's past, the more you realize he might be linked to Diddy in some pretty crazy ways.
Gene Deal complaining about you. I'm complaining about you. I heard one of my homies from 30s. I heard he get every quarter he get clothes, all this. Then you gave this other dude a brand new Benzo or Maybach, another piece of the record company. God damn, homie. I was on top of the world till I met your mother. Dude, wrong, dude. Come on, homie. I need something. Throw a dog a bone or something. Sit up there talking about you, daddy love. Show us some love.
First off, we gotta get into Keefe D, who, if you don't know, was a former leader of the Compton Crips. He's been accused of being one of the masterminds behind Tupac's back in 1996. Keefe D says he was in the car when the shots were fired that night, and his nephew, Orlando Anderson, is the one who pulled the trigger. But here's where things get messy. Keefe D has made some pretty bombshell claims about Diddy's involvement in the whole thing. In interviews from 2008 and 2009, Keefe D said that Diddy actually ordered the hit on Tupac. He even claimed that Diddy was trying to get rid of not just Tupac, but also Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records. Keefe D suggested that Diddy's beef with Suge and Tupac was big enough for him to go that route, hiring members of the Crips for security in the West Coast scene due to his issues with Death Row. Talk about a crazy twist, right? But here's the thing. Diddy has always denied any involvement in Tupac's. In fact, Las Vegas police have stated that Diddy was never a suspect in Tupac's death. Still, Keefe D's allegations have kept the rumors alive. So, how does Keefe D fit into the picture when it comes to Diddy's gang ties? Well, the connection gets deeper, especially when you bring up Greg Kading, the lead investigator in Tupac's case. Kading suggested that Diddy's ties to Keefe D may have come through a mutual connection to a notorious New York dealer known as Zip.
FBI said he's a dirty.
Yeah, and he even said that, like, in retrospect, that was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to Puffy. By Zip stealing the money, now Puffy isn't connected to that, or else it would have been like higher or something. You know what I'm saying?
The FBI said it was just Zip.
So the FBI told you the
he was a dirty.
So the FBI told you that Zip kept that money as well.
They said Zip's a dirty. Everybody cross you. You're the last one to know everything. Even lawyers, your friends, everybody can cross. You just don't know. Even the dudes you was riding in the car with every day, like a low jack. Like, what the?
I mean, like I said, Zip had a history of ripping people off.
Yeah, he never ripped me off.
Well,
otherwise he wouldn't have.
Did he technically do? I mean, if he kept the money that supposedly.
True.
So actually, he ripped you off for $1 million.
Yeah.
This alleged link might have helped Diddy bring in the Crips for security. So, yeah, Diddy may have had deeper street affiliations than he's let on. But remember, all of this is still speculation, and Diddy's camp has continued to deny everything. Now, let's tie this back to the raid on Diddy's mansion, where the authorities found AR-15 rifles. We have to wonder, why were these guns found in his mansion? Well, there are a few possibilities, and each one's a little more chilling than the last. Diddy's been in the spotlight for decades and has had more than his fair share of enemies. With the violent history in hip-hop, it wouldn't be far-fetched to think that these AR-15s were meant for personal security. But the whole defaced serial numbers thing? Yeah, that makes it a bit more suspicious. Gang affiliation. Considering the history of Diddy's potential connections to gang figures like Keefe D, these rifles could suggest something deeper. I mean, why would a major music mogul need military-grade rifles unless he was involved in something more than just running a label? The defaced serial numbers are a huge red flag. Not only does it raise questions about the weapon's legitimacy, but it also points to potential criminal activity. We're talking major legal trouble if these rifles were connected to something illegal. The fact that Keefe D's allegations about Diddy being involved in Tupac's are still floating around. And now with the discovery of AR-15s and other suspicious items at Diddy's mansion, adds fuel to the fire. It paints a picture of a man whose ties to the street and its violence might be a lot closer than he's let on. Whether it's for protection or something darker, the presence of these firearms raises questions about Diddy's real connections to the underworld. At the end of the day, Keefe D and Diddy's ties, whether they're real or not, add a whole new layer to the already complicated narrative of gang ties, street credibility, and violent history in hip-hop. The AR-15s found in Diddy's mansion aren't just random. They're connected to a bigger story that involves Diddy's possible entanglements with gang culture and the violent past of hip-hop in the 90s. And while Diddy has denied everything, the story's far from over. The feds are still investigating, and who knows what else will come to light. But we gotta talk about King Combs because he seems to be wilding out while Diddy is in jail. Here's what's up. All right, so let's talk about King Combs, aka Christian Combs, Diddy's son. You'd think being the son of a hip-hop mogul would make life a breeze, right? Well, not exactly. King's been trying to carve out his own lane in music, but recently, he's been making some questionable moves that have people scratching their heads. There's this viral video where he's out here shouting GDK, or Gangster Disciples Killer, and throwing up gang signs. Like, huh? Why? He grew up in wealth and luxury. Chicago rapper King Yella even called him out like, why is someone born into privilege pretending to be about that street life? And honestly, Yella has a point. Now, here's where things get messy. Timing is everything. And right now, King's dad, Diddy, is already caught up in a whirlwind of drama. From Cassie's explosive lawsuit to his alleged gang ties and that whole Keefe D situation, Diddy's got enough heat on him. So, for King to be out here playing with gang culture, it's not a good look. People are saying maybe King is trying to prove he's real or distance himself from his dad's drama. But after the backlash, he quickly hopped online to shut it down, saying, I'm not affiliated with any gangs. Which is like, okay, but why were you doing all that in the first place? Here's the thing though, King's situation feels like a reflection of his dad's legacy. Back in the day, Diddy allegedly hired guys like Keefe D for protection during the East Coast-West Coast beef. Yep, that same Keefe D who's now claiming Diddy was involved in Tupac's. And let's not forget the rumors about AR-15 rifles found in Diddy's mansion. Now King's trying to make a name for himself, but it's like he's caught in this weird spot. On one hand, he's got this golden privileged life. On the other hand, he's trying to prove he's tough in a world where street cred is everything. But here's the sitch. King's been sampling tracks from Bad Boy Records and trying to build his own sound, so maybe he's starting to figure it out. Still, with Diddy's name constantly in the headlines, whether it's Cassie's lawsuit or Keefe D's wild claims, it's gotta be hard to just focus on the music. At the end of the day, it feels like King is trying to step out of his dad's shadow, but he keeps stumbling along the way. Whether it's missteps or just him figuring out who he is, one thing's for sure. Life in the Combs family is never boring. Now, we can't neglect Cassie's role in all this since the downfall of Diddy's empire did start off with her. She was the one who exposed Diddy first. In November 2023, Cassie dropped a bombshell lawsuit against him, accusing him of some nasty stuff like physical abuse and control during their relationship. And let's just say, this opened all the floodgates when that video came out. Cassie's whole vibe was about reclaiming her power. In her statement, she talked about finally speaking out after years of silence and darkness. She also made it clear that she's doing this not just for herself, but for other women stuck in similar situations. So, it's about healing, yes, but also shining a spotlight on a much bigger issue. Cassie brought all this forward right before New York's Adult Survivors Act expired. Basically, this law gave survivors a limited window to file lawsuits for past abuse. And Cassie clearly wasn't going to let that opportunity slip by. At the end of the day, though, Cassie's stepping into her truth, and whether people like it or not, she's shedding light on some serious issues. And honestly, it's about time these conversations start happening more openly. As for Diddy, well, you could say that he's in a tough spot right now.
You saw Diddy's son?
Yep, I seen Diddy's son.
You was born famous, bro. Why is you on here talking about you, GBK? These people, I don't know, maybe he's doing something to get the attention off his daddy being a, or what's going on? I'm trying to figure out. What's the allegations on Puff Daddy right now? You want to drop the and do all this, but your daddy got all types of coming out.
The guy who used to be the face of luxury and success is now knee-deep in lawsuits and bad press. For decades, he was that dude throwing iconic parties, living in mansions, and rubbing shoulders with the biggest names in Hollywood. But now, all anyone can talk about are these allegations and how quickly he settled with Cassie. And honestly, it's wild to see how fast his reputation is shifting. Cassie's story has opened this floodgate, and now it feels like every other day there's a new rumor, a new whisper, or someone else hinting they might come forward. Diddy went from being untouchable to looking like he's scrambling to keep his legacy intact. And the contrast with Cassie? It's huge. She's out here taking her power back, finding her voice, and inspiring other survivors to speak up. Meanwhile, Diddy's whole empire feels like it's one bad headline away from collapsing. It's like a complete 180. So, what's your take on this? Do you think Diddy can bounce back from all of this? Or is his time in the spotlight officially over? And how do you feel about Cassie finally getting to tell her story? Let's get into it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget, we've got even more tea in the next video, so make sure you stick around for that.